time to spill the secrets.
This is Universal Secrets with Tiffany Mack and Kevin Hale.
It is Monday night. You know what that means?
It's time for Universal Secrets with Kevin Hale and Tiffany Mack.
Tiffany, how are you?
I'm good. The migraine hasn't hit yet, so I'm sure it's going to be hitting later. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good right now. How was your
Got all
day?
cool backgrounds, by the way.
I come up with some cool ones, yes, because I have nothing better to do apparently.
Well, it's always my pleasure to hang out with you on this Monday night. What is this? March 25th, 2024. Secrets, Universal Secrets, streaming on all of our platforms. Tiffany, you asked, how was my day? Yeah, I'm in the real world, so I have a daytime job, IT, and it was a cluster F of a Monday. So it's like, for better or worse, when the intro music played, it was probably the most upbeat I felt all day. So
That's good though. I mean,
yeah,
we're getting back into the swing of things together.
We
You
are.
know, we enjoy our time on our podcast with our friends and meet new people. So this is part of our good day. But you know what? It's always good to see your smiling face, and your candle game is strong tonight.
Yeah. And of course, your red lips.
Mm-hmm.
I thank Brent for giving me visitation rights with you, 90 minutes a week. Hope your family's doing well. Speaking of family,
Everybody's good.
there's a family angle going on tonight.
There is, yeah.
When you suggested tonight's topic,
Mm-hmm.
I have been like, why haven't we talked about this in the 8
length?
years at length? Now,
I don't know.
It probably has been brought up, but to make it a true topic, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Because paranormal or not, and we won't like shove the paranormal angle down, everyone's throat, but this is something that has happened to everyone. Or when I say everyone, there's no per se rhyme or reason. You're not.
It stretches across all different cultures and all over the world, is what you're saying. Yeah, it's a universal
Well,
situation.
I have to ask you, what was your what made you want to talk about this stuff?
Well,
which is sleep paralysis tonight, by the way.
Yeah, sleep paralysis. So, this is something that I've had many times throughout my life, and it's one of the things that has confused the hell out of me. Not only scared me when it's happening, but in the mornings when I wake up and the daylight hits my face, I think, what in the world is going on with my head that this is happening? And it's not just happened once, and it is sort of this recurring thing. And I've always wondered, is it mental strain and stress? Is it the anxieties from just everyday life building up and culminating into this terrifying situation? Yeah, I don't have answers. I have a lot of questions though. And when I threw this question out there, I got a ton of responses, a ton of messages saying, oh, it happened to me, and I've got this story. And I was really excited to see a lot of interest in that, and knew that this was going to be a topic that we could find plenty of people to do, to share their experiences. And so we have sort of a panel for you tonight of not only experiencers, but also some people who have medical backgrounds or therapy backgrounds to help us sort of unload the topic. And hopefully you will have some good questions from the chat, because I'm sure that a lot of our listeners have had similar experiences. So
Let's do this. Oh, what I
Yeah.
do? There you go. Hold on. Tiffany. And,
So,
yeah, here we are. Okay.
all right. Um, I've got to look at this real quick. So I have two bios, and then I have one slacker. So we're gonna just let Rebecca introduce herself, and then I'll give a little description of our other guests. But Rebecca Geracitano is one of our guests that we've had in the past. She is a friend of mine. We are members. We have been members of the CE5 group, which is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. So she has this very unique perspective on experiences and how to handle them and how to get people comfortable with what's happened and help take that next step to understanding their situations. So, Rebecca, can you give us a little brief description of what you do for your living?
Okay, I'm a hypnotherapist, so I'm certified in various areas of hypnotherapy. My love is regression, and so I do current life regression. I've regressed people who've had ET experiences and people who've had sleep paralysis, and so basically that's what I do full time. And so in various categories of spiritual or ET related regressions, I've taken experiencers back. Um, so that is a little bit about myself. Anything else you want me to add to that?
Well, you actually helped me unload some of my experiences, and so this is a near and dear topic for me. So I'm glad that you were able to join us tonight and give your perspective on some of these episodes.
Thank you.
Debi
Tiffany, your
Dougherty.
experiences with Rebecca, did Rebecca get hazard pay for that?
Oh gosh, I can't remember, but she did get a beautiful painting of a mandala.
Good.
Sold.
Okay, let's introduce Debi Dougherty. So, if you've watched our show in the past, you may recognize Debi Dougherty because she was on an episode of our show on Halloween that was about hauntings and ghosts. So, Debi is also a nurse practitioner. She's been a nurse for over 40 years, and now she has taken a role for sexual exploitation and sexual assault victims. And so she is very aware of all of the mental anxiety and stresses that come along with that. And I do believe that some of these situations may cause that type of trauma in a person as well. So, Debi, do you have anything else to add about that?
No, other than the fact that I have had several experiences with patients who have said, I don't know so much if it's the sleep paralysis or the sleep paralysis triggers issues with what had happened to them before, but many times it goes back to an unwanted sexual encounter with the sleep paralysis.
Okay, so that's going to be a really good aspect of this conversation. Then we also have Jeff Adamson, who is a friend of ours. He is a musician and a singer, and he also was a postal service gentleman for a mailman for 35 years, and friends with one of our other buddies, Micah Hanks, and he's actually performed with Micah before in the past. So
2 times, just one song. This wasn't a big deal.
it's always a big deal with Micah. Come on.
Oh, well, he's awesome.
Like I said, one of our buddies. So thank you, Jeff, for being here.
Glad to be here.
So as I put my glasses on because I can't read anymore.
You good? Let's start with the first question, the obvious. What is sleep paralysis? Because there's some people I've already mentioned in the chat, they've never experienced it or they don't think they have. So
What is sleep paralysis, and how does it differ from regular dreams? Does anybody want to start?
In medical terms, it is a dissociation between REM sleep and awakening. So during REM sleep, you have rapid eye movements, so you can move your eyes. But the reason why REM sleep is the most rest restorative is because you have apnea of your entire body. You can't move a muscle other than your eyes. And the mind will wake up, but the body is still in a state of apnea. So you couldn't turn over or move if you really wanted to. Now, some people will start, like I will start by jerking a little bit and trying to shake myself awake. But to totally, wake yourself up, typically you just have to wait until you either go back to sleep and then wake up, or you totally wake up. But it's nothing more than, from a medical standpoint, it is a dissociation between the REM sleep and the mind waking up.
So the point would be to keep you from flailing and falling and beating your partner up.
So you don't act out on your dreams when you're being attacked by whatever it is that you're being attacked, and you're not flailing around and hurting things. It's to keep you still. And that's also the time REM sleep is when you have the most amount of dreams.
The most active part of your nighttime.
Yes.
And Rebecca, do you have anything to add to that?
Can I tell you about one of my experiences with?
Absolutely, yes.
And I've never thought much about it as a sleep paralysis, because I felt myself go out of my body when it happened. I decided to lay down on my bed and take a nap one afternoon, quiet house. And the next thing I know, as I laid down, I'm in my hallway and I see a man, and he looks like Colonel Sanders. He's carrying a suitcase.
Box of chicken.
I'm telling you, I don't think he was carrying chicken, but he was.
I wouldn't turn it down.
Because it is finger licking. No, I'm sorry.
Bad.
And I told him, I said, you need to leave. This is my house. You need to leave. And the next thing I knew, I'm trying to move my body, and I couldn't move my body, but I could hear a ticking noise. It was like a tick, 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 tick.
I get the ticking also.
Have you?
Crazy? Yes, a really loud ticking.
Yes, it was like a loud ticking clock. But what I could feel on my arm, it was like something real soft. It was all on my body. And I thought, I don't have a cat. So I'm laying here, hearing the sound and feeling these sensations on my skin, but I couldn't move my body. And until the ticking stopped, then I could move my body. But the whole time I'm aware that I can't move my body. So that was my experience with that. And so, Debbie, you've had that, huh?
I had that, and sometimes I've had the buzzing, but the recurrent one that I had when I was in the house at Milltown where Tiffany had her first ghostly encounter, it would always start that I would wake up and I would be aware, but I couldn't move, and I would hear a really loud ticking. And then I would hear like the refrigerator, the old compressor would turn on, and it would always be the same things that started it.
Do you think that was a trigger of some sort?
Almost
I don't know.
Like the ticking was, I almost felt like it was that, I don't know, almost like because almost like I went out of my body. And
did you hear it and feel? Like, was there any sensation other than the softness?
There was no other sensation. I could just hear the ticking noise. And until that ticking stopped, I could move my body. So I felt like there was some kind of correlation between my body being still, not being able to move my body, and maybe coming back into my body. I don't know.
One of the big things that people say is they'll hear a really loud buzzing. And I've heard the buzzing too. And it's almost like you hear static in your ears.
I've never heard any of that.
Jeff, why don't you let Jeff share his experience, and then we can hit you guys with some more questions.
This was probably 1975, I guess. I was 10. This only happened once that I know of. I was living at my mom's house, my mother and father, of course. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't move. I could move my eyes and maybe my head a little bit. And as I look at my bedroom door right now, it was open just a little bit, and I could see in the crack um, a figure, and it was glowing. And every time I looked away, it got a little closer. Getting goosebumps now. Got a little closer in the room, and I would look away, and it would get closer. It would stop, and it kept getting closer and closer, till finally, I'm 10 years old. I'm terrified. I don't know how you all felt. I was terrified.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm 59 years old, grown ass man, and that still scares me to this day. Anyway, um, and I finally got up the energy to scream for my mother and father. And when I did that, this whatever it was, glowing figure looked like it had been caught and went through the wall. And they came running down the hallway, and I convinced them there was something in this house, and it was middle of the night, and they searched the entire house, top to bottom, and couldn't find it, and they kind of poo-pooed it away, but um, it, as you can tell, it's affected me. I mean, it's 49 years ago. I still remember it like it was yesterday. So
Do you think that, have you ever had any other sensations of being watched at night that were sort of
hasn't everybody? I
reminiscent of
mean,
that?
yeah, sure. I figure everybody has that. You know, you get a feeling. I'm up at night. I'm retired now, so we have a new dog, and he's up 3-4 times a night, and I'll walk by the kitchen window, and it feels like someone's looking at me, or in the middle of the night you'll feel that, and it's just, I thought everybody had that. Am I wrong?
Are you married?
Oh yeah.
Has your wife ever had any concerns over this? Has she had an episode with you or anything like
No,
that?
no, she's
Okay.
never, not that she's voiced anything. She's never said anything. And I think one crazy person in her feelings, probably one crazy person in the family is enough. Not that I think everybody who does it is crazy. Don't get me wrong, but I've been told from so many people, that's nuts. That's nuts. Well, they weren't there. You know, I was.
It's real. I mean,
Oh,
it's
it was
science.
real to
I
me.
mean, yeah. It's,
Well,
I gotta ask. Let me real quick, Tiffany, staying with that. Everyone, I'm curious when you have these experiences, and I'm thinking because when I had mine, I was married. This is probably in my, let's say, early mid 90s or so. Um, it probably, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe lasted a few minutes, but what is typically how long, or when you're having these experiences, how long are they lasting, or you think they're lasting?
Jeff, how long do you think it lasted for you?
Oh, probably a few minutes, but it seemed like an eternity. I mean,
Exactly.
if you've ever been strapped to a bed, I've had a heart attack, and they strapped me to a bed because I was evidently combative. And if you can't move forcibly, it seems like it's forever. But I'm sure it was only a few minutes, but it was horrible.
Mine was every time I've ever had it, it does seem like an eternity, but it's probably no more than 2 or 3 minutes. And that's what the research showed is, they've done EEGs on people who've had sleep paralysis, and it lasts anywhere from like 30 seconds to 3 minutes.
So they're quick episodes. So why do they seem to affect us so much, and why do they have such a terrifying feeling?
Oh, because you're out of control. I mean, you can't move your body. And I wasn't terrified with mine. And I was older. I was probably in my 30s when it happened. And I thought it was pretty cool. I was like, so I had a spiritual mentor, and I said, hey, I had this experience. And, oh, yeah, you just had out of body experience. I was like, oh, okay. So I continued to have more, not sleep paralysis, but being out of my body.
I'm glad you brought up the cool part, because when I had mine, at that time I was like really already into the paranormal and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So this notion that, at first I thought, it's just a bad trip, but it didn't freak me out. It was weird to, I'm laying in my bed and look over and see my ex-wife now, but my wife at the time, just snoozing away. And I'm thinking, what is going on? And, and then afterwards, I figured it out, but it was unwanted. I don't think I solicited. And I know using today's terms, I didn't swipe right with that person. I wouldn't have. But, no, it was very weird. It was very, it was like a ugly witch. That's the best way to put it. Just,
Sort of like the Bell Witch.
yeah.
I thought because my mother was very religious, and I go to church every Sunday, and I thought it was a ghost or a demon, or I didn't know what it was. So my mind went to the most worst thing in the world,
Yeah.
and that's where it stuck. I don't know. It could have been anything. I
I
don't
would
know.
think a 10-year-old, I would be scared too, and it was dark. I think that would. But yeah, mine was during the day, so I think that helped because it was
Well,
this
I don't want
afternoon.
to I don't want to use the R word, but do you feel like you were violated?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say, yeah. If someone holds you down against your will, yeah, that's pretty much a violation, isn't it?
Did you feel weight on your body? Do you remember anything like that?
Felt heavy,
Heavy, yeah.
but there wasn't like I've seen pictures of the old hag thing with the sitting on your chest, things like that, and you showed one earlier. It wasn't
It,
anything like that, but
it's Henry Fuseli's The Nightmare
okay.
from 1781. Yeah,
Share
we
that
can
again.
bring that up real quick because
There
this
you go.
is sort of the typical incubus, succubus, demonic entity weighing the person down, and there's a lot of imagery that's sort of demonic in there. Obviously, he brought in a lot of fear factors with sleep paralysis. It's well, it shows a demon sitting on the chest of a sleeping woman, captured in terrifying experience. So that's probably one of the most famous ones. And it seems to come up a lot in my mind. The first experience that I had that was it sort of got me into this whole paranormal world was when I was pregnant with my first daughter. So it would have been like 2009. I woke up and I remember thinking, "Oh my God, what is going on?" I'm for some reason just completely fearful. And I see this ball of light, and it had like this face inside of it, and it looked sort of like the typical, like a mantis face. And I mean, I'm obsessed with mantis, but I wasn't at that point. I had not been introduced to the entire mantis phenomenon that I have now. But so the face really freaked me out, and it was like this ball of light, and it was sort of it looked like a ball of electricity, like the Tesla ball that you see with just these tendrils coming out of the center, and then the face was at the center, this little triangular face with these big black eyes. And I remember thinking, what the hell is going on? And I opened my eyes and I could see it, and I closed my eyes and I could see it. It was like it didn't matter if I had eyelids at all. It just didn't matter. So I knew that it was more a projection through my brain than it was anything else, or at least it confused me so much that it made me even more fearful. And so when that happened, I knew something was changed in my life after that moment. And from that point on, I began having more episodes that I couldn't explain. And it wasn't just like sleep paralysis where you can't move, because at that point, it did take a few maybe minutes, but I remember finally just sort of trying to kick out and push out, and I was able to sort of flail. But what I heard in my head was, what can we do to make you stop screaming? Because I was just like started freaking out. And I literally said, you can go the fuck away. You can get out. And that was pretty much the end of it. But, my husband's like, what the hell's going on? You're going nuts over here in bed. But at first I was frozen. There was no movement, couldn't move, and then it like progressed into this sort of what I would consider maybe a visitation, and I never really understood it, and I think that's when I started to see Rebecca after that. I explained that story to her,
Oh, yeah.
and we did some therapies and we did some regression on it. And I think that it helped me understand that I haven't been harmed. B, I was able to overcome the situation where I could finally move. And it got me to the point where I was able to think about things in the moment when they happened, and was able to sort of calm myself down using some of her techniques that she suggested. So when it comes to a person who comes in to see you for a regression or to go over a situation that they've encountered, what is your first step, Rebecca?
Well, normally, if I've talked to a person before they've done the session, either on the phone or through email, and not always do they tell me they've had sleep paralysis, but usually they know what kind of session they want. They want to be able to either do a regression for current life ET situations, like or um, or other types of spiritual regressions that I do. So I always know pretty much, but what I understand about some people who've come to me and they've said, yeah, I've had these instances where it's sleep paralysis. So I can't move my body, but I've seen people, I've seen, faces, or I've seen people standing there by my bed.
Mhm.
And a lot of times they're just really open to regression. I mean, regression is the best way to put them into that REM, or, into that state where we do go into the REM state, and to be able to relax the mind and body enough to move back in those instances. And sometimes it's validated. They have had some either, ETs, or they've had some other type of phenomena happen, a spiritual phenomena happen to them. So, and people have to be, when they come in to do this, they're ready. Someone who's not prepared to move back into memories or situations such as that, they probably won't, because fear can actually act as a resistance to using hypnosis and allowing a person to go into those memories. So we definitely have to know beforehand, because the person wants to be prepared, and to do that. And meditation, of course, is the best way. Doing some breathing techniques, that type of thing.
Tiffany, if you don't mind, maybe this is, since Rebecca just kind of alluded to that, bring up kind of the paranormal angle
Mm-hmm.
without kind of shoving it down everyone's throat. Some have claimed some of these maybe be stemming from a demon, spirit, or even maybe an alien abduction experience. Let's, if you don't mind, maybe for a few minutes, go down that path.
Oh, I mean, a lot of times people will get a sense um, if it felt negative, if it felt evil, or if it felt like they were okay. Like for myself, I didn't feel a sense of being threatened, that I couldn't move my body. Um, so it can happen many ways. So, if a person is, if there's a lot of fear involved, again, um, of course, that's our bringing, our upbringing, our beliefs, what we've been taught, religion. Some of that religious views can be scary, and that we think it is a devil. It could be something else. It could be an entity who's just kind of roaming around and trying to attach onto someone because they don't realize that they've left their body, for instance. So, um, So it really is a perspective. It may not be evil at all. So it's really, yeah, it goes back to beliefs and perspective. But most of the time when people feel like it's something that not so much trying to help them, but it's something that is uniquely focused on them. And they're like, okay, something is, something's there and I want to understand it. Once in a while, I do have people who were in like what Debbie talked about, a haunted place. And of course, that was more fearful. They felt like it was a haunted uh, place where an entity was roaming around, and so it varies so much. It really does, Kevin.
Well, and if you go in and you feel like you're in a place that has a lot of negative energy, it's probably going to create a fearful state for the person involved.
Yeah, yeah.
Bringing that up, so Debbie, you've lived in multiple locations that have had a lot of activity, supernatural activity.
Yes.
They've been close to cave systems with lots of water and lots of this energy going around, and a lot of history in the houses because a lot of them have been very old
Very old
houses.
houses.
So how do you feel that plays into your experiences?
Well, I the first time I actually saw an absolute full body apparition was in my house in Indiana, and I opened my eyes and I looked at the long window that was upstairs, and there was a woman standing there looking out the window, and she turned. She never made eye contact with me, and I'm trying to holler, Dale, wake up, because I want him to see this. And I'm like, and I couldn't say anything. And she walked right past me, and all I could do was follow her with my eyes. And she got to the top of the steps to go down, and she vanished. Well, later on, I asked my 88-year-old next door neighbor who'd lived next door in that house. He was born there and he was 88 years old. Had there been any deaths in the house? And he said, yes, there was an old woman that died. And I said, do you know where she, anything about her death? And he said, well, she died upstairs. She had, and she dragged her foot. And he said, she had a stroke and she would drag her foot. And this woman was dragging her foot. And I said, do you remember what she was wearing when she was buried? Because he said he attended the funeral. And he said, yeah, I do. And he said, she was dressed in a white blouse and a black skirt, and she had her gray hair all pulled back. And that's exactly what I saw. So, yes, I had an episode of sleep paralysis, but I also absolutely know that I saw a full body apparition. The first time I saw something, I was probably 5 years old, and it repeated over and over again. And I would look out into the hall, and I would see a figure walking out of my brother's room, and it would walk into the closet where the furnace was. We didn't have a huge house, but I didn't see that once. I must have seen that 20 times over my childhood until I left when I was 17. And again, there was sleep paralysis associated with that. And I started looking, I was like, is this house a portal or something? Well, it's Valley Station. There, it could be. There. The Mormon Farnsley house wasn't that far from where I was. But I'm going to tell you the craziest one that I ever had was when I was a nurse practitioner in Ocala. And I woke up and I saw a Native American in full whatever it was that was native to the area standing right next to my bed looking at me. And I was like, I cannot even believe that I'm looking at this. And it bothered me. He didn't scare me. He just was staring at me, sleeping bed. And I'm trying to reach over to get my husband to wake up, and I couldn't move but just sit there and look at him. And eventually it just disappeared. And I was like, did I imagine that? So I started looking up the Native Americans, what tribes were there. And it was the Seminole. And I started looking at what this guy, he had like
traditional garb for them.
Yeah, he had like a palm skirt on and had a spear in his hand and some kind of weird headdress. And that I found exactly what they wore. And that is exactly what he had on. So whether I often wonder if what we're seeing is some sort of the veil lifting, because they say the veil lifts right before you wake up. So perhaps that's where the veil has lifted, and you're awake, but you're not really awake.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I look at it, is I got to peek beyond the veil.
Mm-hmm.
You got a haunted house.
I wonder if
Was it-
that noise is too,
Right.
Oh.
that ticking noise, or
Right.
that veil, yeah.
You know what, though, Rebecca? A lot of times people use like a metronome to get you into that meditative state. And guess what that is? Click, click,
Yeah.
click, click,
Ah,
click.
Hmm.
That's
The
exactly right.
first time I went to a regression hypnotherapist, he was a psychiatrist in Louisville, and that was the first technique. That's what he did. He just put that on and started, just counting me back and all this stuff. Maybe there's some kind of
Connection.
purposeful trigger that is being placed so that you can get into that state and be able to connect with whatever entity is there, whether it's a visitor from the past. Maybe you're being granted permission to see into the past or into the future just for those few moments. Maybe we're granted just a slight picture.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying, I was going to say, I'm not, from a medical standpoint, they will always tell you that those are hallucinations. And maybe I was hallucinating, but it was a mighty real hallucination. So when women have come to me and tell me the things that have happened to them when they were waking up and, somebody was on top of them doing things that they didn't want, who am I to doubt that? Reality is in the eyes of whoever it happens to. And that was their reality. And, I'm not going to call it a hallucination. To call it a hallucination is almost insulting.
Yes.
You couldn't have possibly have seen that. You were just imagining things. I haven't imagined what I've seen. I know I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And people have called me crazy for it, but I don't care.
Right, but you're also a professional who deals with horrific activities and situations. So, how, like you said, how do you tell someone that they're absolutely lying, or is it you have to listen to your body, right? I mean, we're always told, listen to your body, listen to that gut instinct. And when that instinct is completely on fire and on alert to the nth degree, that's got to be something that your body, your soul knows is out of place.
Right.
Tiffany, check this out from our friend Ufi.
Mm-hmm.
How do people who experience sleep paralysis differentiate between a supernatural occurrence and just their mind playing tricks on them during this state? It's addressed to Debbie. I'll let everyone answer, but go ahead, Deb.
Well, I kind of think I just addressed it. The medical people will tell you that it is a hallucination, that it's been well studied, but sometimes I think we can't see what children and animals can see things we can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean they're not there. It just means that I can't see it. But maybe it is the mind playing tricks on them. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I will tell you that from a medical standpoint, they will always tell you that it's a hallucination.
Well, with Jeff's situation, he was 10 years old. This is the prime age for someone to still have this connection, this soul connection to the beyond. And this is the prime age that people will tell you, you're imagining things, your hyperactive imagination's going nuts at night, you just go back to sleep. It's not real. But when you're seeing something, hearing something, feeling something, there's all of these senses that are being triggered which, I mean, anybody else would say, well, there's something happening. If you're seeing something, you have to trust yourself. And in these experiences, I think when you relate them to someone else, when you tell them, when you share them, you get different feedback that doesn't support the situation and how you experienced it. Hold on, Jeff, we can't hear you. Sorry, go ahead.
I get a little closer. If
There you
you've
go.
been told enough times that you can't, that was your imagination or something like that, you start to doubt everything else you see,
Thank
especially
you.
when you have your parents saying, "Oh, it wasn't real. It wasn't real. That wasn't real. You're dreaming. You're dreaming." My eyes were open. I could move a bit, just a touch. No,
Hmm.
you're dreaming. And then what else is fake? What else
Right.
is imagined? And that really messes you up for a while.
I
One
Good
agree.
thing,
point.
if I could say that
Go.
in with hypnosis, a lot of times people want to understand, well, did I make something up or did that really happen just in the regression itself? But just with these experiences, if you think about it, when you look at the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, our conscious mind is that part that judges and analyzes and makes decision. It's kind of for the outer world, it takes care of us keeping our bodies safe. Um, the subconscious does the same thing. It's always trying to keep us safe and secure, but at the same time, it doesn't judge. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
So as children, when something happens, we're like you said, Tiffany, we're really still close to all those experiences. But in the subconscious state, when something just happens, was there a pre-thought? Think about it. Was that person saying, "Oh, I think I'm going to make something up"? Well, unless you're doing that, if something just comes to you, how can you be making it up? It's there. And so I think that whatever that is, whatever you believe or not that you made something up, there's something there, there's an energy there that's coming forth and it needs expression. And whatever that expression is for you to figure out, I guess. But sometimes people can help you, of course. Um, I always tell people, look at it as a metaphor. If that, what is it that that energy is showing you? So in the case of the person who just asked that question, the imagination is the gateway to the subconscious and our experiences, whether they're supernatural or not. They're the gateway. It's not, doesn't mean we're making things up. I think we just use that terminology to explain things away that people can't explain, that I've had this experience. Oh, it was just your imagination,
Yep.
Now,
Mm.
historically, what do you think people in the past have thought about these experiences? We're sort of jaded by the extent of the medical field and how much control they have over our daily life and how they I mean, you saw all of this BS about COVID and being the deadly killer that's going to wipe out humanity, and we get sort of bombarded with a lot of medical information that is supposed to be the end all be all, and this is what you have to believe because this is what we believe. What do you think? What do you think that has done in relation to sleep paralysis and the visitations that are involved with these? Do you think that most people are resistant to the idea that they might be visited by other beings?
I think the medical community makes everyone feel dismissive about anything that they can't explain. And, if you can't say, well, that was this right here, and we have an obvious explanation for it, then it becomes dismissive. And sleep paralysis for centuries, I mean, it is cross cultural. It has gone on. I mean, it was in Romans wrote about it. It has to be explained. So they would explain it through a demon or a religious thing or whatever. But there is something there, but everybody has a different way that they view it. So some cultures view it as a positive thing, and some cultures view it as a very negative thing or a punishment, or I must have done something wrong because this is why. this is happening. But I think in my experience, I did OBGYN as a nurse practitioner for 30 years. And I am a sexual assault nurse examiner. So women come to me and will tell me things that they won't tell anybody else. They won't even tell their partners the things that they tell me. And, some of the ones that I've had, some of these women have had past sexual assaults. And when this is happening to them, it is like someone is sexually assaulting them all over again. He's in the room. I know what he's going to do. He's coming towards me. I can't move. I can't scream. It is terrifying for these people. And again, they need to go see Rebecca because, there's not much I can do except to talk to them about it. There is no treatment for sleep paralysis except good sleep health. Don't drink alcohol. Don't use drugs. But, if you see this stuff every night, if you have a woman who feels like she's being raped against her will once a week, she's going to be on Ambien at night. She can't sleep. She's too scared.
Right. Well, that's another problem is, we need to sleep. And if you're fearful of something happening while you're unconscious and in your most vulnerable state, you're not going to sleep well.
And they become really paranoid. The interesting thing that I found, men to women, it's about 70% women that get sleep paralysis versus men. But 1 in 4 people will experience some form of sleep paralysis that they can remember. So it is pretty common, but not everybody sees things like we have all seen things. Some people just wake up and they can't move. And other people have the most frightening experience of their life. And, I don't know what the difference is. Maybe that a past experience that they've had has made them more vulnerable, or are you more open to it? But when you have children talk, I was like 5 years old and I had no earthly idea what this thing was walking through there. My parents didn't talk to me about ghosts or whatever. And I remember telling my mother that, and she was like, "You're crazy." She used to say I was full of prunes. She's like, "You're full of prunes. You didn't
full
see
of prunes."
Yes, I was full of prunes. I guess that's a nice way of saying FOS. But children have these episodes, so there has to be something to it.
So has that? Everybody has this experience. Have you changed your lifestyle, or has it made things different? Me, when I was a kid, I took martial arts to learn how to protect myself. When I became an adult, I started buying firearms and learned how to use a firearm. Does anybody else? I got a dog for early warning. It's made me slightly paranoid. And not in a crazy way, not in a like, I'm scared to death, but I just take precautions. Now, is anybody else like that?
When I was young, I slept with my head covered because I didn't want to wake up and see something standing by my bed. And I didn't cover my head
tied under the sheet, right?
I was married.
Yes. So how many of the boogeymen that we've been afraid of have actually been part of a sleep paralysis episode?
Nobody knows.
And a way to torment a child, the boogeyman will get you if you don't go to sleep right away. Well, that'll make them want to go to sleep right away.
Oh yeah, I'm dead asleep now. My eyes wide open.
Wake up in the middle of the night, there's something in your room, you think, what have I done?
That's true. Yeah, the boogeyman's definitely coming to take care of me because I'm not going to sleep. Dang it. Oh my gosh. So, I do have a question. Could sleep paralysis be an evolutionary trait with a protective purpose?
Protective what?
It's a good question.
You mean like a dream memory kind of thing?
Maybe.
Dreams in general are the way that the mind processes, and you don't usually think about the things that happen that day. It usually takes 2 days or 3 days for you to process it. So if you watch a really scary movie, it's usually not that night. It's like the next night when your mind is trying to compartmentalize and figure out what all this meant, or a relationship problem or whatever. But perhaps it is how we, are able to see past whatever trauma it is that we're seeing, or making ourselves have more trauma in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Jeff's case, you know, he had more trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a question. You ever see in say entertainment? I was talking to Tiffany earlier about that TV show Resident Alien, and it's a comedy. Ha ha! Funny, funny, funny.
Oh yeah.
There's a scene where these people are abducted and held against their will, and their mouths are open. It's a horrible scene, and why would that creep me out? But it does. It's horrible.
I watched about half of the first episode and I couldn't watch it because it bothered me so bad.
Yeah. So why?
I don't know.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
neither.
that's a good question. That's a
That
question
might
for
be a
Rebecca to
question
find
for
out.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
Okay, Rebecca. Give me your phone number, Rebecca. You can request me.
So lay that out to me again. So you're, why is it that,
Why would an episode of Resident Alien trigger such fear for him?
well, I haven't watched it. So basically Resident Alien is, you said that the scene was that they were abducted
Abducting
and
humans.
their
Right.
mouths were all, they were pulled.
Their mouths were pulled open by these things, and they were stuck in a chair, and they were. I'll just hear all the ET.
I see what you're saying.
They're like
You just don't like dentists.
That may be the case. Does anyone?
Maybe something unconsciously has happened. Maybe there's something in the subconscious. There's a because that's where all our memories are, and some of those can be unconscious. The things that you've had, those experiences, sleep paralysis experiences, possibly something like similar that happened to you, perhaps. And so, any energies. I mean, Carl Jung tells us that, you know, our dreams, any energies that are still active within us are going to come out at any time. They can be either through a dream state or watching something, we get triggered. And so that energy's still there. So that's what I would say. That's something in your subconscious. It could be a memory, or it just could be a trigger.
I was thinking of possibly them being held down and
yeah,
some force field paralyzing them. Like I said, when I was in the hospital, they held me down, and that messed me. I was like, "Get me out of this." That's the
but
worst thing in the world.
that sounds like you did have a trauma.
Well, when I was a kid, it was horribly traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know if you've ever had any other situations, any other, let's say dreams that you can remember that were similar? Any other entities have been in your dreams? Do you know, Jeff?
I've had dreams where they were pretty bad, and I know it's a dream, and I'm in my dream. It's wake up, wake up, wake up, or I'm trying to poke my wife, wake me up, or I'm screaming in my head. But
so like a very, very vivid live dream.
Yeah, some kind of scary, horrible thing. Nothing comes to mind right now, but because I can't remember a lot of my dreams, thankfully, you know.
Yeah.
But nothing. I've never seen any other kind of entity or whatever. And people know not to. Don't try to scare me with stuff like that. You know, don't sneak in the room in the middle of the night, think you're going to scare me, because that's probably not a good thing.
You're probably going to pick that pistol up right under your bed.
It's right there. So.
Me too. So I do have another question, and this is for Rebecca and Debbie. What role does stress and mental health play in the frequency of sleep paralysis episodes, do you think?
Well, I did look at an NIH study that had to do with that today. And one of the things that they said is a trigger for sleep paralysis. You're not getting restful sleep because you're stressed out about something. So I think stress probably has a lot to do with it. And you don't ever really get really restful sleep. And we know that not getting restful sleep can cause really vivid dreams and really scary dreams. So there's probably some connection there with that. But again, I've seen it. I mean, how's a child stressed?
Right.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. So, what kind of stress does it involve to be able to create that in a child?
Right. And maybe a divorce or something like that.
Oh, that my parents were getting divorced at the time. Maybe that was it. Right after that, Then after they got divorced. So there you go.
Maybe the anxiety allows an opening for potential negative entities to come through.
Well, they've said that since, the beginning of time, that the anxiety, when you're at your weakest, that's when things can, like demons, can enter your body.
Mm-hmm. Oh, now you're going to get into possession.
Right.
Good.
That makes you wonder, is that what caused the possession? Maybe they had some sleep paralysis before.
Rebecca, what do you know about possession?
Well, I mean,
It's 9/10 of the law. All right, that's out of the way. But
we all know that one.
What I understand, I know through my studies, I had taken a lot of studies in that type of thing for my master's in transpersonal studies. And one thing is that, that the mental health can, not mental health, well, mental health and any type of boundaries that are very thin. So if a person has very, even an alcoholic or anything where the boundaries are very thin, they're able to allow energies to affect them. And it could be an entity. It could be anything that that could affect them in that way. So, and we think about demons or someone overtaking someone's body. So on the spiritual note, like I was saying earlier, that spirit may be just someone who passed away and didn't know they were even dead. Maybe it was a sudden death. So a lot of the different cases I've looked at, with regression and that type of thing, is that they can get through with those thin boundaries as far as being possessed. I haven't really done any regressions where someone was possessed. I've had a couple strange ones where they felt connected to like Satan or the devil. And the only thing I could do is ask them if they wanted to release that. And they didn't. And I thought, well, I can't help you because you're saying yes to this energy. So I've only had.
Do you think it's because the energy maybe made them feel special or different or gave them some kind of worth?
Yeah, from the idea on the look at attachments are something that a person at some point, either in another life or this life, said, yes, I need you. I want you with me always. And so I believe that that's exactly I remember the one lady I had last, she said, I like this person does make me feel
special.
Needed. Yeah.
Needed.
So when she said, no, I don't want to release this. And I said, okay, well, and then I brought her back and
like a parasitic relationship. You know?
Mm.
Well, that can be with a human as well.
Yep.
True.
That's true.
Here's a scenario for you, throwing it out for everyone. Say, Tiffany, you're having a sleep paralysis experience. You open your eyes, you're seeing the room. Yeah. Say Brent sees it, he sees you having this experience. Can he wake you up?
I'm okay.
Or just, that scenario. Can someone next to you that's seeing you have clearly
we've talked about this before. Like with my episodes, I'm awake. Most of the time, other than that first episode where I was frozen to begin with, but then I was able to kick out and start pushing. It's almost like your body is under some kind of other control.
I get that. I'm saying if
he has experienced these with me, and when just to sound as crazy. Could he wake
you up though, or could he bring you out of that?
How could you wake up when you're? How do you wake you up when you're already awake?
But you're technically not. Right?
He couldn't pull you out of that.
That's what I'm saying.
Paralysis is
right.
Basically.
Maybe I'm wording it wrong.
Maybe I'm thinking of different a different type of experience.
Can a person wake you up from a paralysis from that moment?
Even though you feel awake, did you notice he saw you having that experience?
Most of my experiences have been fully awake. So I don't really have many of those sleep paralysis, but I do have the visitation part of it.
Okay.
So when you say, can someone bring you out of it? I think that if they feel you struggling, maybe, when you're starting to get that movement back, it might be a way to connect you to reality.
Well, I'm saying, is it possible? Can they? Can they or not?
I think it depends on if you can move.
Yeah.
It depends on if you can say something.
Once you shake somebody, you rouse them out of the sleep pattern that they're in. Right. And it's like somebody's shaking you awake and your brain is no longer asleep. So yes, you can shake somebody. But I've asked my husband several times, why didn't you, shake me? And he said, I didn't know anything was going on with you.
Right.
He just never noticed it. I mean, I'm laying there with my eyes wide open and I can't speak. And you didn't think to ask, was there something wrong with me?
But could you see him looking back at you during this? Okay, you could. All right.
My wife was just probably glad in my pocket all the time.
Groaning, trying to scream, and he was facing me in bed. And he opened his eyes and he was looking at me. And I'm thinking, would you shake me?
I bet that was terrifying, though, him seeing you like that.
And then he pushed me and he said, Debbie. And I was like, oh, thank you. And he goes, what's wrong? And I said, I couldn't move. And I was like, why didn't you shake me earlier? He said, I didn't know. Yeah, it was like I was screaming in my head, wake me up.
Yeah, on that.
He was able to realize that my eyes are staring straight ahead and I'm and I couldn't scream and he shook me. Probably only because he wanted to go back to sleep would be most likely.
Tiffany, in this day and age, there's got to be a TikTok channel, someone's TikTok, that all they do is like their significant other is videoing them while they're having
we need to start that. We need to start that trend, that TikTok page. God,
that's horrible.
That is. That's an awful idea.
Give Jeff nightmares.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
But if you listen to like on a lot of these shows, the ghost hunters or whatever, and you hear them talking, that women who are talking about, or men, usually women, that think that they've been visited by a succubus or an incubus, all of them say the same thing. He came in the room, he was sitting on top of me. I couldn't move, I couldn't scream. The number one sleep position for this
on your back.
On the back.
Yep. On the back.
But I'm not a back sleeper. So I'm in the 12%. That's 12% on the left and 12% on the right, and like 9% on your belly, and the rest is on your back. But for the people who are on the back, I mean, that's entirely possible that's what they are saying.
That was my one and only. I'd never sleep on my back. I'm 50-50, side to side.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And that experience, I was laying right on my back.
Me too.
Maybe that's a vulnerable position, because if you think about animals, a lot of rescue dogs will sleep curled up in a ball because they're protecting their stomach and their, the special organs. Maybe that's a more vulnerable position than sleeping on your side. On your side, you're still a little bit more protective. If you're on your back, you're completely open to attack.
A lot of people say that they feel like they're being suffocated. Well, if you're laying on your back and you have sleep paralysis and sleep apnea at the same time, you're going to feel like you can't breathe because you have sleep apnea. Only normally when you have your apneic periods, you'd be dead asleep. This time you happen to be awake and you're thinking, take a breath, take a breath, take a breath. But you can't take a breath. I mean, I know that there's times where I felt like I couldn't breathe and I kept thinking I need to take a breath. But you can't make yourself take a breath. You just take a breath because it's a reflex when you've got sleep paralysis.
Or when you pass out.
That's not one of the things that you can control. Is you cannot control respirations when you've got sleep paralysis. Only your eyes.
Wonder why you can move your eyes.
it has to do with rapid eye movement, because that's the only thing that's not paralysis. Respirations are an autonomic muscle response, so you're going to do that regardless. But you can override the autonomic system and go. So I just overrode my natural respiration. So you can do it both ways.
Do you remember? Obviously, Jeff was not of age of drinking or partaking
Well, it's
of
not.
alcohol.
Technically,
Well, depends on where you were.
legally,
I'm making up for it now.
But I wonder how many people typically do have some sort of. I wonder if people try to avoid potential experiences because of so many in the past and use medication. Like you said, Ambien was a good, yeah. How many people do you think would actually self-medicate in order to prevent these experiences from happening because they're so traumatic?
I would say it'd be probably the same number of people who have say that they are visited by extraterrestrials at night or ghosts at night. Those people usually are self-medicating because they don't want to have that happen, and they think if they can just stay drunk or
chill out,
that they won't wake up. But I doubt that was really helpful. It probably makes it worse. I know it makes sleep apnea worse.
Yeah, Rebecca, what do you think about that?
I mean, I would think it would make it worse as well, but because I have had some people who come in for hypnosis or what have you that they can't sleep, and if they're taking Ambien or even smoking. I mean, a lot of that stuff, it does affect the sleep cycle, and I could see where it would make it worse as well.
But we don't know that alcohol is going to make it worse for you, and so I bet you a lot of people do self-medicate with alcohol.
Well, alcohol really affects your REM sleep anyway. It really damages the REM sleep, and that's why they're chronically tired and they wake up in the middle of the night and I've got to get back to sleep. So what am I going to do? I'm going to drink more alcohol.
Now here's
for the record, I don't do that.
I don't either.
But I'm an Ambien taker.
You are.
And I have some Ambien stories.
Okay, so let's get into Kevin's little Ambien episode. We had one show where Kevin had taken his medicine a little bit early, and I don't think he remembered half of the show. So it's probably not a good idea to take your Ambien before you start your podcast. That was 7 or 8 years ago.
I took an Ambien, got up in the middle of the night and polished off a pint of whiskey with no recollection. And I had to go to work the next morning, and I was too drunk to go to work. And my husband walked in the room and said, "Why did you drink all that whiskey last night?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "You must have gotten up during the night." And I drank it was probably
a lot.
I mean, it was a lot. And I had no recollection of doing it. I don't even remember going to bed, but that's why I don't take that.
I'm going to do that next time. I'm blaming the Ambien. What? Ambien?
Right.
Nothing to do.
Jeff, it's a great excuse.
I'm telling you right now, I'm writing this stuff down. Ambien,
but Ambien, in Ambien's defense, if you take it as directed, like you take it and then get your ass in bed.
That's what you've said
before.
You're supposed to go.
Put your phone down. The only problem wasn't some nights that I couldn't not put my phone down. So I'm having conversations and I'm talking to people. I can literally, if I'm on Ambien and I can have these conversations and be talked into going out or having someone to come over, it'll happen. It would physically happen. But the next day you quiz me, I would fail the test. But I went through the motions and people didn't know.
That's scary.
That's very scary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm behind the wheel.
Oh my gosh.
That's called Kevin party time.
That's just scary that you're in that kind of state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And
So, Kevin, you've got to not only put your phone down, you need to shut it off. It sounds
You
like.
have to shut it off. Yeah, turn TV on. Yeah, it really.
Do not disturb. Turn everything Wi-Fi off.
The do not disturb sign on my door. Yeah.
So there was a comment here that I wanted to bring up. Lady V says, I sense an experiment coming on. We gonna need a night cam on Tiff for this one.
What the hell was that?
I don't
That
know.
noise?
What was that? I heard
Did you
that
hear
too.
that horn or whistle?
I don't know. What
Sound
was
like a whistle.
Sound like a whistle.
I need to put my, well, let's see. That was a text that came through.
that? Okay.
Sorry. about
There's another one. This is Ron from ERT Radio. He said, I was on my stomach and something grabbed me by my ankles and turned me over on my back. So that had to have been an absolutely terrifying experience. And he's a good sized male, you know, it's not, you know, I'm sure it wouldn't have been an easy task for someone to flip him over. I'm not saying that you're any bigger than my husband, but I couldn't imagine trying to flip my husband over, you know, it's got to be difficult. So what kind of entity could actually do that? And if they can, what else can they do?
Ooh, good point.
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
Could you imagine having sleep paralysis if you're in prison?
Oh my God.
Heaven, the scenarios are terrifying.
It's still sleep paralysis. Look, I'm not. You could use your own imagination.
No
Is
fact.
there soap involved?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Wouldn't that burn?
Oh my goodness.
It burns.
We'll have to find out and get back to you on that.
You know, here's one. Last week
How will
we
we
had,
find out?
yeah, right. We had Christian Thomas on last week, and you know the topic was psychedelics, hallucinations. Could that use bleed into or help trigger sleep? You know, I don't know.
Well, I know they have been using ketamine for people who have issues. But
is that for PTSD typically?
Yeah.
How would that even help somebody with
How does force
PTSD?
tranquilizer help people? I don't understand
That's something that I didn't quite get to during the show. But how do you think that would even help someone with PTSD or having some psychological and psychiatric issues?
Well, when I fell in my accident and broke my hip, the ambulance gave me ketamine and they overdosed me. And I had a near-death experience from it.
When was that? Only a few years?
It was in 2019.
Okay.
Did you see the
And it
light?
was the ambulance driver who miscalculated, thought I was a whole lot fatter than I was, and gave me an improper dose. And I can remember finally when I was able to come out of it, I asked him, was I dead? But that's one of the things that it does is it causes dissociation. So anything that did go on, you just didn't care. However, it affected me so negatively that I had to see a psychiatrist when I was at U of L hospital because I couldn't understand
why
my mother didn't show up when I was dying or when I was dead. And I kept thinking, why is mom not here? But I really thought I was dead. But for some people, it gets them, they use it a lot in hospice patients too, because it gets them past the fear of the unknown of dying because they feel the dissociation that you just don't care about this world anymore.
Really?
Deborah, how close to death were you?
I cardiac arrested.
How many minutes did you not have a heartbeat?
Like 2.
Mm.
And then they brought me back. But I mean, I did not have a good trip on ketamine.
Well, I was 3 minutes, no heartbeat, no respiration. They gave me
So we have 2 people on with NDEs.
They gave me the zap twice. I rode the lightning twice.
They did mine with drugs, but like I said, I remember asking them because I was certain that I had already died. And I remember when they did this, I was like, oh gosh, my husband is going to be so mad at those paramedics for doing this.
For killing me, yeah.
For killing me. And I saw some really weird stuff when I was gone. But the thing that bothered me the most was that my mother wasn't there. But ketamine doesn't have the same effect on everybody. It can be really very helpful when you've got really severe PTSD or people who've got, especially like in my case with the patients that I deal with, really severe rape victims, because they can dissociate out of that and they can not, they put it in a different place in their brain is the only thing I can say.
Put a
Now,
little box.
yeah, it's like a little box that you put it in.
Mhm.
But for me, it was not a pleasant experience, so bad that when I finally did get to the hospital and my leg was backwards from the fracture,
Oh,
I told them I didn't care what they gave me, but don't ever give me ketamine. And I was like, just tell them I'm allergic to it, which I'm not. But it was that horrific an experience for me. But for some people, it's the difference between killing themselves and being able to go on.
Jeff, can you tell me a little bit more about that? And then we're going to get Rebecca's opinion on it also.
about what?
About the the near
Being
death
dead?
experience. Yes.
Well, that's the thing. I don't remember any of it. I was going to ask Rebecca to get her phone number or her email or whatever.
Yeah.
I lost 18 hours, and everybody told me I was fighting the EMTs and cussing up a storm. That's why they tied me down. And I don't remember anything from the time I died in my living room until I woke up in the ER. Or no, it was in the ICU with tubes in every orifice of my body. So I don't remember. And people said, "Did you see the light?" I said, "No." Then they say, "Well, maybe you better straighten yourself up."
Oh, that's
Yeah.
scary.
I'd like
Yeah.
to, should I be regressed to see what happened, or am I better off not knowing what happened? And
How
that was
many hours were you did you
18
lose?
hours.
18 from the time that you had the event and then you woke up.
Woke up in ICU with
Okay.
my wife and my son and some people around with
I mean,
a tube down the throat, and it was horrible.
yeah. I mean, what do you feel like happened? What do you feel
I
like?
I don't know. I don't recall anything other than once in a while, if I get bumped, I kind of have like a flashback. Because if you pick you off the gurney and put you on another gurney, they're not gentle. They're in a
Yeah,
hurry.
they jump you on from
Yeah.
one to the
So
other.
that's
Yeah.
when if I step wrong and feel a bump, I get a flashback of it. But I don't know what happened. So maybe we can hook up and you can regress me.
Yeah, and sometimes what I do is just help people create a bridge to go back where you need to go. Your subconscious is only going to go where it feels safe to go, where it's ready to go. I
Mhm.
had, in
It's been
fact,
8 years.
what's that?
It's
Been
been
8
eight
years.
years. It was 2016.
Oh yeah, I mean, I regressed a young lady today even, and she had come to see me several years ago, and we did a regression, but she wasn't. She even was told, "You're not quite ready yet," from her guides. And today she went back exactly where she needed to go and really uncovered a lot of stuff she couldn't remember in this life when she was younger. So people can go back very far,
Even
and
to past
recover
lives.
in past
Well, I'm
life.
not interested in that. I'm just interested in those 18
In
lost
this
hours.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
If you feel, yeah, yeah, we can
But
talk about.
what if you uncover something that's horrible? Can you say, okay, forget that?
Mm.
Well,
But,
most likely though, if something was traumatic, often it's actually your subconscious won't go to it. It won't allow
good.
you to open it up. But if it does, then it's ready to allow that energy to release. And
Okay.
if there is emotions that come up, I always tell people that's great because you are allowing a catharsis to happen. You're allowing something that was pushed down and shoved down that is still trying, it'll try to surface in different ways, flashbacks, triggers. But when it comes to the surface and you can explore it, you can release the emotions around it. It can be very healing.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what happened with me.
Yeah.
With my experiences going to Rebecca, we examined not only dreams that we've had and these visitations that I've had for years. We also explored the idea that I may have had a past life as a a girl named Angelique, and you know, it was a strange experience being able to talk through that and go and visualize that. So I do believe that hypnosis may be the key to helping you understand what has gone on in your life, and maybe be able to find a guide to help you understand the impact and how it's supposed to help you in your future. So, like she said, unpacking all of those emotions, even though some of it may be scary, it may help you understand where you are today and what you need to do to continue. I want to share this comment from Ufi. It says, that tone appeared in the room and did not come from anyone's speakers. Take note. It's a little freaky.
The tone we were referencing earlier, like a whistle.
The tone, the whistle, yeah.
That was from within this group, because they couldn't hear it, is what she said.
No, they're saying appeared in the room and did not come from anyone's speakers. Don't know. But oh gosh, you've obviously got some customers. We'll connect on with Rebecca as well. So, Kevin, did you have any other questions?
I think, again, the obvious is like, for those who have recurring episodes, are this usually the same entity, the same
good question.
shapes? Are you?
Mine wasn't.
No.
Mm-mm.
So
I've had, when I was a child, it was the person that walked through the room that I could see through. When I went to Florida, it was the guy that looked like the Native American. But the one that scared me the most was the one that I was looking over and I could see a nightlight and a plug. And this, to me, it looked like this black figure would come out of the plug, and it was just a giant black figure, but it would stand at the end of my bed and be very menacing. And I would try to think of what is this, or who is this?
Would it come out like a smoke and then form into a figure? Or
no,
would
it just
would
come
it just
out and be
materialize?
It would just it would just come up and be there. And that didn't it happened at my house at the lake that you've been to.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened a couple of times. Now, that being said, twice it was associated with deaths of my really good friends.
Mm.
And
so that could have been a stressful moment. Did they come back to visit? Or?
I didn't know that they had died.
Okay.
Oh,
it was the night that they died, and then I found out the next day that they died. So I always figured that that's probably what that was, is somebody just came to say goodbye or whatever.
Brent had an episode when he was younger. He was about 15 or 16 years old and had this best friend, and I can't remember his name. I think it was Josh, but he said that he woke up in the middle of the night and his friend came to the door and was standing in the door, and he's like, "Hey man, I just wanted to come by and tell you that, you're my best friend and love you dearly." And that was pretty much it. He's like, "Yeah, man, I love you too. Why are you even here?" And he's like, "Well, I just got to go." Well, then he found out the next day that he had died. And that was obviously very traumatic for him. So I wonder if people who have this relationship with the supernatural, do you feel that some people can be just more open to these types of experiences, whether it's a sleep paralysis demon or a ghostly apparition? What do you think, Rebecca?
I think so. I've had all of them. I've not had to have sleep paralysis to have experiences. Mm-hmm. I've seen apparitions. I've had a voice, and I know I'm not, hearing things. But since I was a child, I've had experiences. So I think that people are in different dream states. I mean, I've had a lot of visitations in dreams, mm-hmm. and I've had psychic dreams. I still have them. I had them a couple weeks ago. So I mean, I think that, like with Debbie, she's had those sleep paralysis episodes where she's in that certain level of REM, and you're able to see these things. And I don't know, I just think they experience different levels of consciousness the same way that,
Right.
yeah.
I
And
think
then,
it's probably has to do with your level of consciousness. And I
Mhm.
also think it has to do with how open you are
Yeah,
and not be afraid of what's on the other side that you can't see.
But
Because,
that's something that you grow with. Like
right.
as a child, when Jeff saw this, he, I mean, do you feel like you would have been able to? It, do you think you would have related that fear if it had happened at 58 years old? Would it have been the same level of fear, Jeff, as the
Oh,
10-year-old
I'm
you?
sure. I was getting ready to ask, how can you avoid this? I never want to see anything like that again. Um, I, I, I applaud how brave you all are for. Oh, it happens to me all the time. I will never want to close my eyes.
Yeah.
Um, it just scared the shit out of me, and I did not like it one bit.
Hmm.
So I was scared as a kid. If it happened to me tonight, and I hope it doesn't, it would scare me tonight.
Do you do anything special before you go to bed to try to prevent any kind of episode like this ever happening to you again?
I have a routine.
Prayer?
I got
Ru-
uh, OCD, so I do everything. Lock all the windows, um, say my goodnight prayers, and kiss my wife, and pat the dog on the head, and turn the light out. Put my earplugs in, and go to sleep.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Are there any known methods to prevent or reduce the occurrence of sleep
There
paralysis?
you
Do you
go.
think
Let's ask
that's
that
more
question.
of a is there anything that we can do that you think would help? And I'm asking Rebecca on this one.
well, I would
Yeah,
ask
Hershey.
Debbie because I don't have a lot of experience with the medical side of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, but as a therapist, you
As
still
well
have.
as
That's really the only treatment is something that Rebecca could have to offer because I have nothing for you.
well,
I
what
can give
I
you an
would,
Ambien and knock you out all night long, or maybe two,
well, what
but
I
I
would,
don't have anything to help.
for me, just as an all around, I think when we do have some type of spiritual practice, I think if we have this idea that the world out there is negative and bad and there's bad things, then again, there might be that opening for it. But if I know for me, I can speak for myself. I believe that, yeah, there is some stuff out there, but I also believe that we are people of energy and frequencies. And I believe that some of our beings who are trying to help the earth, trying to help humanity, whether they're ET beings or they're masters, or I believe that that frequency is a higher frequency. And so to me, for me, I want to every day feel my best. I want to be able to think in the best way. I want to be the best version of myself. So, um, to me, that higher frequency, the highest frequency is of love. And so, when we can be in that love frequency, then there's not a lot of things that can really scare us. So, with that said, doing our prayers and that we feel, not just say things, but feel that there is a loving presence. That's how I like to go to bed at night, that I like to think about my loved ones. I like to, some people surround themselves with love and light. They can imagine a beautiful force field around them. Meditation, deep breathing. There's some yogic breathing methods. The 5-2-7 is a great way to let your body just diffuse of any negative
And
energy.
that's deep breathing in deeply
Simple
for
five,
5
hold
breaths,
two,
or
Yeah,
and
you would
then
pause
holding it for a second and then
2 seconds
releasing
and then,
slowly.
yeah, so
Okay.
in the mouth you would do that. So there's different yogic breaths we can practice. And so just allowing yourself to go to bed with the release of negativity or events of the day, or so that, I think that's a really good idea to go to sleep with. journaling. If we're feeling sad or frustrated or upset about something, journaling about it and getting it out of our minds and coming to a resolution that, okay, but I'm safe. I had that experience, but I'm okay. So different things like that is what I would say.
Do you consider prayer the same thing as meditation?
Um, I know I don't, to me, prayer is not in the sense of saying a particular prayer, but it's mostly a prayer to me is opening up to the spirit, my higher self, and any of those higher frequency beings. So prayer to me is that opening up and putting my vision of, for instance, I see my daughter surrounded by love and light, perhaps, or I don't usually ask for something. I just kind of put that out there, and then meditation is that way of just kind of being into that place. So I think meditation and prayer go together, but it can vary. Sometimes we want to ask for certain things in prayer, or we want to manifest a certain quality in our life. So I think it's different for everybody. I don't want to speak for anyone else besides myself.
A lot to unpack here, Tiffany.
Oh,
We could do all kinds of shows just on all different subjects.
I know. I don't. Like I said, I've had one, and I guess I don't. If this was addressed, say it again. Is there a known medication for this? What would
No.
you do? What kind of medication would you
If I
prescribe
had
for?
someone that had, well, first of all, if I had a person that came to me with persistent problems like this, I would send them to a sleep doctor, because there are doctors that just, treat this and to see if there's an underlying condition for that. And, the first thing he's going to do is do a sleep study to see if you've got a weird heart rate at night, or are you apneic at night. And, you know, giving someone medication to sleep can become an issue in and of itself, because if they don't have that, then they really have messed up sleep, because they can no longer get themselves into the restful sleep that they need.
Mm-hmm.
so no pill, huh? What is name?
Yeah, I think that's, I would definitely, if rule out a medical condition for sure, and have that sleep study done and make sure there's not a irregular heartbeat or what have you. And once you know that, I think going to what you can do, I mean, there's so many physical things we could do, stretching and yoga. My chiropractor always said, don't go to bed with your back hurting,
Well, then I never go to bed.
have a
I
massage,
wouldn't either.
get a
Say
massage.
that cures two problems.
But we have a massager, so I always massage my back if my back is stiff. And that's the same way we don't want to go to bed with negative thoughts of the day, things that have bothered us, or experiences such as what you've had, or like the sleep paralysis. What we want to do is to and do what we can that feels right to us. There's so many different ways to ease our mind, body, and spirit aspect. And I think a spiritual discipline, and I'm not saying religion, I'm talking about something that gives you peace, reading a book that informs you of, a higher presence or a higher quality of feeling and being. And I know that's not always the answer, but I think it helps,
I'm looking at some cultures who had it, like Egypt. In Egypt, sleep paralysis is conceptualized as a terrifying jinn, Jinn attack. The jinn may even kill its victims. So
Wow.
I guess my question is, are you aware of anybody dying from said experience? you know.
Well, then you get into, did they just die in their sleep? And how in ancient Egypt would they ever know that they actually died from sleep paralysis or didn't just have a heart attack or
Heart
stroke
attack.
when they were sleeping? So, what I read was, there's no evidence that it does any harm. It doesn't change your brain waves. There's really not a whole lot of change in your brainwave pattern because it just shows that your brain is awake, but your body is not. So,
Tiffany,
sorry.
you're muted.
What's that?
Dang it. I said, then you get into the whole idea of, I mean, obviously the jinn could have been the demon that kills you.
It's
With the tonic.
The tonic didn't do it. It was the gin.
It's either the gin or the tonic. Oh,
Right.
I hope it's
I mean, you can't have one without the other. So
well, you can.
it's just not as fun.
No, I mean just straight gin.
Straight gin.
Gin, not DJ.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, that's something that I've thought about too, is because when you're in that state, a lot of times you're so completely overtaken by fear. Can fear kill you? Can you get so scared that it just stops your heart and just
You can get so
end of
scared
it?
that you have a heart attack. Yeah. Just like you can be so sad that you can have a heart attack. It's called
Broken heart.
broken heart syndrome.
What is it called?
Broken heart syndrome.
Yeah.
Ian works in cardiac cath, so he fills me in on all this stuff. But you can be so scared and so stressed that you put out all of this cortisol, which raises your blood pressure and it stresses your heart. If you already have clogged arteries, that's going to be it.
Yep. That's right. The Widowmaker.
Yeah, that's terrifying. This has been a great conversation, guys, and I really do appreciate all of you coming on to share your experiences and your relationship with this topic. I guess the takeaway is that just like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, it's the same thing with sleep paralysis and the entities that you see. I think it's a personal belief system that you're really having to relate to more than anything else. I can tell myself that it was just my imagination and be done with it, or I can take it as being a visitation from another dimension or another being, and either learn from it or grow or totally dismiss it altogether.
Right.
But like Jeff said, this has impacted his whole life. So obviously there's some of these experiences that you can't let go of.
Right.
I can't imagine someone having that kind of an ordeal at so young of an age.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was no fun. I can tell you right now.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's lighten up. There's my dog.
Hey, baby. Aww.
Come here, Coop. Want to say hi? Say hi.
So, my daughter, my youngest, actually wanted to share her experience, and I'll do this in closing. So she heard that the topic was sleep paralysis, and she shared one story that I had never heard before. She said she was 6 or 7 years old, and the first couple of months we had moved into the new house. She was at her dad's house. So her sister was in bed, and they were in the same room together. And she woke up to see an unfamiliar rabbit toy on the bed, and she blinked because she didn't know what was happening. She didn't quite understand where this toy had come from. And every time she blinked, the rabbit faced me a little bit more. And I tried to talk or wake up my sister, but I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. The only thing I could do was look at it and blink. And there was a loud bang as I blinked once more, and I opened my eyes to see the rabbit toy melted into a horrible face. So she slammed her eyes shut for a few minutes, and she was too scared to look and see the demonic face, is what she said. And she said that she heard a little voice that came from under the bed that said her name, and then it screamed. And she opened her eyes to see long fingers, and they were reaching for her, and she was hearing her name again. And that was probably one of the most fearful experiences she had that she could remember. And of course, she's 10 years old, so it was only a few years ago. And she'd never shared that with me before. So I think that a lot of people experience these scenarios and really don't share them because there's still a stigma behind any kind of things that you see in the night that aren't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth, I definitely tell her that I understand, and I understand her fear. But, this is part of life. We do have strange visitations. We don't quite understand everything. I don't have all the answers, and the medical field doesn't have all the answers. We don't know what goes on in the brain. We don't know what goes on in the universe. There's so many things that we're beginning to understand, but I do feel like the medical field dismisses a lot of these human
Absolutely.
experiences.
Mhm.
If we
Like
can't
this-
put a name on it, it can't be real. And that's, that's the reason why I do a lot of alternative medicine, because people don't want to pill for everything.
Mhm.
I do send them to therapy, and I do send them for massages, and acupuncture is great.
Mhm.
I do all of those things because, the Chinese were doing all of that stuff 5,000 years ago. That, 5,000 years of medicine can't be wrong.
Right.
Yeah. Reiki is good too.
Reiki, I actually can do Reiki. Oh,
I
good.
love that. Well, Reiki will be my next adventure.
It's
It's on
Rebecca's
my list.
website.
In hospice, when patients are dying, that's what we do, is we do Reiki.
Interesting. So
And
that's can you explain Reiki real quick?
Reiki is, you don't actually lay your hands on the patient. You lay your hands around them, and you're trying to change their energy, and you're trying to push the bad energy out, clear out the bad energy. But they did it on my mom at my house when my mom was dying, and it totally relaxed her.
Mhm.
But hospice has Reiki masters who come in, and when people are dying, they'll do Reiki on them. But you're
Really?
trying to change the energy fields around them to get rid of the negative energy and help with the energy flow.
Rebecca, I can't remember. Do you practice Reiki?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
Here's
it can
her sessions.
There you go.
I can't see anything.
You can't see the screen?
No.
Can anybody else?
I
I'll
can
see the
see.
screen.
We can see the screen, but we can't see what you're showing.
Oh, I can see where it hit. It's
Yeah.
my website. He's showing the Reiki
There we
session.
go.
There you go.
Experience relaxing and healing.
I can't see it.
Yeah,
You
most
can.
of my patients weren't awake when I was doing it. Most of my patients were, hospice patients that were dying.
Oh, yeah.
So
And it can be hands-on. It just, a lot of people just feel that sense of peace. And, I work through the chakras. I do it in clearing because I've practiced some pranic healing. So basically, just moving the energy out and around, and the hands-on, does help the person. It transfers. Reiki means spirit, so it's basically the attunement to, move that energy, kind of be that channel of that higher frequency of spirit of healing energy. So, yeah.
and we
Back
have
in the day-
to understand that we are not just a physical body, There's
Right.
something more. We have a soul. We have a spirit. There's something more than just your physical form.
Yeah.
The old medicine would call that the laying on of the hands.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they would say. I had the laying on of the hands, and that was up in Appalachia, Kentucky. People would lay hands on people and change that. I used to do that to my son Aaron for his migraine, and I could touch him in a certain spot and on his neck, and he would say, "You're burning me, Mom,"
Mm-hmm.
and but his headache would go away, and that was
You
just
could come
kind
up and visit me because I've had one for 3 weeks.
Oof.
Every
Oh.
night for 3 weeks. Anyway, what a fun show.
It's
I
interesting.
feel I feel like we actually covered a few of the food groups tonight.
We did. We did.
That's right.
I see something down here. There's something strange on our screen now.
It's a banner scrolling. Are you not
no.
seeing the screen?
No,
I
I'm
can see
seeing
it.
something different for some reason.
He's just showing my
I
It's
see
a-
that part.
website.
It's
Yeah.
promoting
Email
Rebecca.
Rebecca at
Gotcha.
Thank you. And,
All right.
and then of course the drop down, I do everything else, all the different. I do
Mhm.
course canons, QHHT, life between lives. I do regular current life regression for those who just want to move through this life, but I also do past life. So
Let's do just a really quick commentary on your new process, and we are going to do a show with Rebecca later about this. But can you give us a little brief description of what you've started to do recently? Rebecca?
I don't even have my website. It's something I've put together. It's called the multidimensional being progression. And it's basically something some people approached me that that are working with or conscious innovators, so to say. And so I do have some links for that. But basically, I was approached to create a regression or progression, I like to call it, because for me, the multidimensional progression is about those who are at a place where they know they're here to do something to help humanity, to help our world. And those might be people who they've had regressions before. They really understand they're starting to more understand their purpose. But this session it's almost another frequency. It's like that that universal consciousness that I feel like it allows those people to, or whoever feels the need for one, to be able to really touch in on their true self. So we have our higher self, we have all of our aspects, but all together, when we integrate fully, we are our true self. And so it's a session to be informed by that true self that they are integrating into, so they can fully understand what their purpose is at this time as a conscious innovator on Earth. So
I'm going to be really excited to hear this one. That'll be scheduled soon, guys.
yes, and so I'm actually working with people I know, friends who are helping me test it out. So yeah.
I will be your first victim if you'd like.
Victims.
I offer up my body for services. As long as I get a Reiki in there also.
Well, Tiffany, this one, this was great. I mean, there's just a lot of information. This is one that I'm glad we finally devoted a show to, and I knew we could pull it off by having the whole show talk about it. And everyone here shared great stories, provided answers, maybe therapy solutions. Jeff, you having it as a kid, I feel for you, man. That's pretty traumatic, you know.
I don't want you to think that it has affected me horribly. Well, I don't know. I don't know how to put it. I'm not a basket case, but I still remember it. So, it's I can't imagine Tiffany, how your daughter feels. I really feel bad for her.
Mm.
So, I mean, I empathize.
Yeah, she was really excited to share. So
Excited.
excited to share it because and me not having heard it was sort of amazing. I mean, she just sat down and wrote it out, and I was like, "Wow,
Can you
okay."
imagine living with that all that time and not telling anybody, just like
Not
Jeff?
telling me at all. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
That's
thankfully, she had you that didn't tell her she was full of crap or she was
oh,
imagining
never.
things. She had you that you believed her.
Yeah,
So,
with my experiences in our family has had so many. There's no way I could deny it. I was a little shocked that I hadn't heard about it. She wrote it out very well and described it well, and I was very proud of her for getting it out there and letting me know. But I think that support is what we need
Yeah.
for these
Oh, absolutely.
experiences, and
true.
having somebody listen to you and be not judgmental, but just an open listener is really important.
Hmm. Yeah, both my daughters have had experiences where they've seen things, and then that hypnagogic state. My daughter used to see people and hear conversations all the time.
Mm.
My grandson had something where he remembered another time and place when he was 3. So I've always been at the notion of supporting that because I've had so many clients who have been told when they had experiences that they were making it up or they,
Right.
so then that has the effect of, shutting that down and not even believing in their own experiences. So I think, really listening to our younger people and without judgment and listening to anybody's stories without judgment. My office is a no judgment zone, and that's what I
Hmm.
tell people. You're in a safe place to come in and talk about your experiences and have emotions or what have you. So
Yeah.
Imagine how many people really have it with all the people who don't are too afraid to tell about it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if
yeah,
we know this many people who do have it or are willing to share, it's got to be far more widespread than what
Mm.
we believe that it is.
Right, and it's
Yeah.
cross cultural as well. I mean,
And
there's been
a lot of
documented. Sorry.
people don't know how to put a name on it. How do you put a name on as a child? I woke up and I couldn't move and I saw something in my room.
mm-hmm.
They
Yeah,
can't process it themselves, let alone try to verbalize what would just happened.
Right.
I didn't know
But
I
us.
didn't know the
Go
name
ahead.
until later on. I started listening to different podcasts, Micah's podcast,
Hmm.
Mysterious Universe, and Expanded Perspectives, and things like that. I didn't know what it was until I heard that, and oh my, I've had that. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's what
Right.
it's called.
Right.
So I didn't know.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Tiff. Good call. This was good, heavy, detail too. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening for another great episode of Universal Secrets. Next week we have another great guest. No idea
next
who it
week, if
is.
I do our look at our calendar right, next week is going to be our last Monday night, and then we're going to switch to Tuesdays.
Tuesdays.
So stay tuned there. But
Yeah.
one more Monday night. So.
It's hard for me to say Monday night with Universal Secrets. It doesn't make sense to me. We
It's
need to go back
Tiffany
to Tuesday.
Tuesday. We need Tiffany Tuesday. Yeah. So, everyone, thanks so much for doing this.
thanks
Well,
so
It
much for
was
having. I've enjoyed seeing you all again,
Yeah.
Kevin and Tiffany, and nice to meet you, Debbie and Jeff.
nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you.
you lent so much to the show tonight. Very much
All right.
appreciated.
So I hope that no one has any crazy adventures this evening.
Video them, share them with us next week.
Set up your videos just to make sure you
Yeah,
catch
please.
it.
I don't think my wife would approve of a video killing her in a bedroom.
Oh,
Oh, come
goodness.
on.
We're not going to go there.
All
It's
right.
for science,
Nice,
honey.
y'all.
Yeah. We'll let the audience go, and Tiffany will say our goodbyes. Thanks
Okay.
again.
All right, adios.
Bye.
Thank
All right.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Where'd you go to?
That was a great picture of me. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Fun in the way that it's interesting fun. I don't wish. I mean, I know what I experienced, and the fact that you're being held down against your will, even though it's an act that most men would probably be okay with. But no, I don't. That didn't fly with me.
What if it was another dude?
That was. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
And in my that's not my case, but what if?
Yeah.
I kind of hit it around the jail thing, but
right.
But, yeah, so Claire had mentioned me, texted me, and she's like, "Remember, I told you how one time there was a little boy at the end of my bed, sleep paralysis." Always at the end of their bed. She said, creepy as hell, but I wasn't scared. And sometimes I see other things and it's scary. She has them frequently. I tried to get her on tonight. She's 29 now.
Okay.
So
now she has a child though. So
yeah, 3-year-old. So she couldn't come on tonight because
but do you know if your 3-year-old?
Yes, we do. We talk offline. We'll talk offline. Some of the dreams that Mila has had and wake up and share with Claire blows her mind because she's given Claire, saying things to Claire that maybe only Claire knows or knew, or something that Mila shouldn't have known.
Right.
And we can talk about that. But yeah.
And
we got a great guest lined up next week. It's cool, but Mike
Rickson.
Yeah. Yes. So that'd be a good one. Let's give a shout out to everyone in the chat. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. Great questions as usual. It was fun. Tonight was fun. Entertaining. It was the paranormal part didn't overwhelm the show, and I was okay with that. But there is a, you could say there is a paranormal angle for sure.
I think that we covered the medical aspect fairly well, though.
Definitely.
So I feel like we did it justice.
All right. We are Universal Secrets. You can catch us on all the podcast platforms. Our shows are on YouTube. In the description is our link tree link to take you to all of our social media sites. So for Tiffany, Matt, Kevin, Hale on this Monday, March 25th, and we thank again our guests, Jeff, Debbie, Rebecca. Good stuff. Until next week, Tiffany.
Ta-ta for now.
Ta-ta for now. This has been Universal Secrets.